everyone, and welcome to Real PR with me, Fiona Scott. How are you? I hope you're having a good week, a good day, a good month in business or life or whatever it is that you're doing. Whatever you're doing right now, whether you are sitting on the sofa, in your office with your headphones in, going for a run, listening to this at your convenience, I really hope you get true value from listening to me and my wonderful guest today who's joining me from another country. So let's get into it.
Yes, thank you. Well, thank you for this invitation. I'm always thrilled to speak to an interesting podcaster and someone who's done video and a reporter and a journalist. And, it's my pleasure also to speak to you. I'm speaking to you now from New York. I am a New Yorker. I have spent my entire career in a combination really of New York and various global jobs. So I have sat in London a fair amount doing global jobs over my very long career. And I'm there fairly frequently, even now. So while I'm in New York today, I will be in London next week. So, um,
Marvelous.
yeah, so it's that's sort of the way certainly the world of communications works. So the very short version is I have been in PR for a very long time. I was started as an intern while I was actually still in university. I worked at an agency for college credits. And then I was a senior though. And so at the end of the internship, I was offered a job. I was working on the research side. It was an agency called Research and Forecast, which was part of a global agency called Reuter Finn. And so I stayed at Reuter Finn for 15 years. I went up the ranks. I became the head of global healthcare there. I lived in London for a while, did a lot of work in Basel. But I was there for 15 years, and then a client offered me an opportunity to work for them, which is the way these things tend to go. And so I worked on the corporate side for a while. And then another former client said, no, come back to me. And so then I left the corporate role. I went back to sort of consulting. Eventually, we started an agency. And in 2020, after building an agency for 17 years, we sold our agency to Reuter Finn. So funny full circle. And so our agency is called JacobStahl, and we are JacobStahl, a Reuter Finn company. So so it's very, completely full circle. But I just have the experience I can share to your listeners or anybody who is sort of interested in cultivating their entrepreneurial spirit, is that there's a lot of entrepreneurial opportunities within communications. And there's lots of ways you can bring that to the surface of any career, and it certainly comes to bear in the work that we do, because you need to be agile, and always looking for what's next and always thinking about what's coming. And so a lot of these entrepreneurial sort of skill sets, they really come to bear in your day-to-day work, regardless of if you're in a corporate setting or in an agency setting, or you're starting your own. So it's always been the approach that I've taken in my communications career. And, I teach and I write. I have a new book. And so I'm always sort of after, what's the next thing,
Okay, Sandra. So if we roll back to when you started your career,
Yeah.
because I've been in media for 40 years, so I guess we're similar. I don't know, you're probably a lot younger than me, but similar experience. Tell me, my view is that visibility, messaging, and communications is more important now than it's ever
Yeah.
been. Would you agree with that or not?
I would absolutely agree with that. It is communications, messaging, presentation has always been absolutely critical, and it's also the distinguishing factor for a lot of companies, especially ones that are competing. So you can only talk about brand attributes for so long. It's the way you present your brand attributes, and that's all communications. I will also say that that reputation is extremely important, as well as brand comms. And we spend a lot of time now showing the link between investing in reputation and financial gain for a company. Where are you with shareholders, and what kind of environment do you create through reputation that's good for your sales teams, to then go in and close deals on their brands. And so it is absolutely more important than ever. And we live in our world today is full of uncertainties coming, from various angles, from, the financial services side, from the politics, the fact that that public opinion can make or break something, a brand, a company, in a heartbeat. Social media gives everyone a megaphone, and there's no intermediary like a journalist who can say, no, that's ridiculous. You can't, I would never write that. I mean, now people can self-publish, self-post whatever they want. So having a very well-baked, well-managed, invested in, nurtured communications function is absolutely more important in an environment like this than ever.
So bearing that in mind, talk to me about your book that came out this year. So tell me all about that. What was it about? What motivated it? And how's it been received so far?
Well, I wrote a book about 8 years ago, I guess 7 years ago, 2018, so 7, right? The first one was called The Art and Craft of PR. And it was really, the motivation for it was because I wanted to dispel some myths that still permeate PR. I mean, I've been at this for as long as you've been a journalist. So the same, oh, what is this spin? The same kind of, doesn't matter how successful agencies are, no matter how many millions and millions of, of dollars, pounds, euros, agencies are worth. There are still people in business and around who think, oh, it's soft. It's like it's a nice to have. It's a spin kind of business. I wasn't having it. So I wanted to explain the art and craft of it so that people understood the strategy versus the execution, what you need to know and how to do it. And I also wanted to help nurture the next generation of communicators. So that was this book, and it did really well. Won a bunch of awards. It's in libraries and universities, and I got a lot of invitations to teach. I did a course at UWE in the UK. It was very lovely to be invited to speak at the University of Western England in Bristol. And so it did very well, this book. But then I had been asked over and over again for more of a workbook. How can you bring the learnings from the art and craft of PR to life? What could people do? Like, if they read your book and they whip out a pencil and do some of and like bring it to life what you're saying, like write a headline, figure out the messaging, understand the strategy. And so that's what the Smart PR book is. It's more of an interactive book. So there are exercises in it, and there are ways that people can just take out their pencil and practice, and in a targeted way. So I have, there are, I don't know, 10 chapters, and there are probably 15 exercises kind of thing in this book. So this just launched this year, and that was, I was, asked to do this, and so I did. So that's out there. I also have a third book, which is mostly reputation based. It's called Shifting Sands. It's building reputation in an evolving landscape. And that was also asked of me to write a book just focused on reputation. So it's kind of a user's guide for communications practitioners about exclusively reputation.
And Sandra, a lot of the people that watch me will tend to be sort of what we call here in the UK micro business owners. They might be one man or woman bands or small teams of maybe less than 10. Would they get value from this book? Is it very corporate, or is it something that anyone could apply to their own brand?
Oh yeah, I mean, it's a very it's not meant for just one specific audience. It's a real, the Smart PR book is like a real how to understand how to create reputation or communicate communications, whether it's building a company, building an executive profile, positioning a product in a competitive environment. It just sort of gives you it's very level setting, for someone like that, like a new owner. It just sort of says, okay, what is it that I should be doing, or how should I be communicating? It's like it makes something that's very sort of broad and abstract for someone who doesn't necessarily do it, and it makes it very real and understandable and practical. Having said that, if you're already in communications, but you want another perspective, you want to hear from someone, a different voice, it's actually good for that person too. And it's also good for the student who's thinking, what should I do with my life? I like communications. I like marketing, but I don't really know enough. And so it helps center that person too. So it's it's very approachable. I mean, I like to write the way people like to read, and so it's not, it's not super corporate, it's not academic, but, I just cover sort of a lot of, I just sort of circle it and then zero in on it, so that people can take something very practical away. So
Marvelous.
yeah, for sure.
Now, tell me, Sandra, reading up about you before we met today, I know that you've spoken about, or you have views on AI, which is a really hot topic and will trend for some years to come, I think. And there's a lot of fear around it, particularly in the UK, there is, and particularly in our world. Because I tend to class media and communications as the same world. We just tell different stories from different angles. So, what is your perspective on AI, and how have you got there?
Yeah. This has been, I mean, AI has been talked about for, in a very hot way, right, for the last couple of years. And, um, uh, as I think communications people, right, PR people, comms people, integrated marketing people, however you want to class yourself, I think we tend to be early adopters. Like we're all like of something new, right? New social media or digital media, or let's expand our world, or, influencers. Like I think we tend to be really curious, open types, right? And which works for us. You have to have that head. You can't be sort of, this is not what I do, so I feel like that's a very solid place to approach AI in a way that makes you open and not fearing, right? Like you're not afraid. Having said that, you read a lot of things and you talk to some people, and there is a self-preservation uh, reaction that, oh my God, I'm going to lose my job because anyone could chat GPT or Copilot, or, and I can ask a company, I could just, prompt, and it'll spit out whatever it is I'm supposed to be writing, a position paper, a press release, a point of view, a brochure, like whatever it is that you're supposed to be writing, that it'll just spit it out. And what we will be reduced to are like prompt engineers, that's what we'll be reduced. Like we will eventually all be prompt engineers. But the thing is that it can't. That like AI will never be able to be. It's not. It does certain things very, very efficiently for you. And yes, you can. It is good to be a prompt, to like get better at prompting, because it'll spit back better information. But the important thing to remember is that it is not human. It's not creative. It doesn't think. It'll never react empathetically. It'll never pick up on, body language, tone, fear, ambivalence in a stakeholder audience, right? That's what we do, right? That's what humans who are trained to do this do. This is what we're empathetic. We're listeners. We're seeing what's not said, right? We're hearing what's not said. So the way to approach AI, right, is to look at it as a really fantastic efficiency tool. It's going to do all the work, right, that you would have to spend a lot of time researching, right? So it'll spit that out, and and you're going to get better prompting it, right, to spit out higher quality information. And what you'll have to work with is something that would have taken you longer to collect, right? But then it's your job to bring your skill set that you've cultivated, that you have learned, that you've trained, that you're so good at, to read all that, to take in all that, and then say, right, okay, what's true, what's not. I mean, AI makes mistakes all the time. They just collect information. There's so much garbage in that all the time. So how do you separate the truth from the mistakes? Like, that's number one. And then how do you bring your own humanity to that information, right? And so to see what's not seen, to find the white space in that, to find where you are going to help this message, this brand, this client, this company, like harness that and then take it up the next level that will really connect with stakeholders. That's going to get the journalist to write the story. That's going to get the stakeholder to prefer the brand, to get the executive to be more credible, more authoritative. What are you going to take from that? So the the way into AI as a friend, right? To see it as a friend is to see it as this fantastic efficiency tool. And also and look at the information, and then to bring what you uniquely are learned, have trained to do, how to make you all those skills even sharper. Because I'll tell you one other thing about that is that I remember this all the time. PR, our communications agencies, I mean, I'm an agency now, right? Very competitive, right? I mean, you have to win business and all that. And the thing with AI is that it's a real level setter, because everyone can prompt, right, an AI tool. Everyone's going to get the exact same information, right? Everyone. So what will make you distinctive is to find what no one else is seeing in that information, and bring that to the core, bring that to the core of the work that you do, bring that to the attention of whoever it is you're trying to speak with, and make it that much better. So it's actually beyond being efficient. It helps us be in touch with exactly what makes us better at our jobs than the next agency, sharper, more intuitive, more empathetic, more more just better, right? And distinctive. So that's sort of how, like, another way that I see it is that we all have the same info now. Like, everybody's got the same information now. So what am I going to bring to this that's going to make me stand out, make me be different, make me be distinctive? Like, why are they going to choose me over everybody else? And in so doing, why will a stakeholder choose that brand, that CEO, that company to invest in, like, whatever it is the assignment is? So it's sort of an interesting way to make yourself be more efficient and even better at what makes you different as a communicator. So
I love that, Sandra, and I agree so wholeheartedly with you, because the one thing I've noticed, particularly with younger generations coming through, because my oldest child is early 30s and the youngest is 18, is they operate and make buying decisions, and that's over products, services, and who they choose to follow as an influencer or a celebrity, based on how they feel and their emotions, often over and above whether one thing is two pence cheaper than another thing or a few quid difference. They buy emotionally.
everyone does.
Yeah.
I mean, everyone buys emotionally.
Yeah.
I mean, I think there's, and you can ratchet that up from an individual purchase, like your children, they'll, like, an individual's purchase or your purchase, but, then you should level that up to how do, certain stakeholder groups purchase, whether they live in, the UK or London or the country or New York or whatever it is. Are they moms? Are they in this sort of region or this demographic set? You just get to learn a lot of these things with AI, but the way they'll pull the trigger on it or green light something is when they'll remember the story, or they'll be hit with something emotional, or they'll have some sort of an emotional connection, and so AI will get you quite far in terms of targeting and information. But I always think to close the deal, to close the deal, whatever it is, they need to relate, emotionally because, we're people and that's, know, and we'll always be people, and which is the good thing. And so finding that connection is still it's still very human. And and that's and I always remember it. But at the same time, I'm happy to welcome the efficiencies and the better targeting and knowing who these people are and their preferences and what they buy, like whatever stakeholder it is. I'm happy to have that information, but because it ratchets up my ability to know, okay, so now I know this about them. And so where am I going to find that connection? So it's fantastic. And as long as you see it that way, I think it's your friends. And that's and there are a lot of people around, like a lot of great experts out there who will say that too. Um, that said, there's always the occasional client who will tell me, oh, I don't need you to write it because I'll go to Perplexity and they'll spit out whatever. And to that kind of client or that kind of individual, you have to say, okay,
Yeah,
great. Yeah.
I've
You
had,
do you.
yeah, even in my smaller world, exactly the same. And I just say, okay, off you go, good luck,
Yeah,
because
you're all done.
sooner or later you'll be putting out vanilla content just like everybody else who does your thing. But hey, thumbs up, good luck.
All best, you'll be back. And
Yeah,
then, and I mean, there's always going to be that editor,
yes.
right? Or that in my case, like that client, and I mean, I used to have a client who would say to me, Sandra, can't you just gin up a story on CNN, next week? Like I need it on Friday. Can't you just, his favorite thing was saying,
Yeah.
gin it up. And like there's always that type. And to whom you say, no. Like you have no news. That's not how it works. And but there'll always be that type. I mean, I just had another one like a week ago, and is as a brand that I work on for a long time, but he just got hired as the new CMO, and he came from a different background. And he's the one who said, I don't know why you need a week to write this. I just put it in Perplexity and it spit out, whatever, this report. Okay. So how good is that report? And did you fact check that report? And listen, if it's good for you, go, it's all
Mm.
good, And so there'll always be those types and to whom, people who are in this business, writers, journalists, PR people, communications, you have to say, okay, you'll get there. Like you'll get there. But I feel like our business, I just feel like our business is is more important, honestly, than ever. And the naysayers and those who are want to use, AI for things that they used to pay agencies or journalists for is, go for it, try it. But there are many others who know what the value is, and of experience, of knowledge, of good, of a great vocabulary, of experience, of like human nuance, and who want to read a good story, want
Mm.
to edge of your seat story. Do one of the first interviews I did for this book, the journalist asked me, did I use AI for it? Like, did I just use AI for it? And I said, no, of course not. I did not, and he said, oh, well, you'll be surprised. Many writers will say they did their, like, AI produced the first draft. And I said, okay, well, great. I
That's
did not.
fine.
I,
Also,
I,
I tend to think you've got a limited shelf life for that kind of behavior, particularly online, because AI will soon hunt down AI in content. So, for instance, Medium, I've written on
right.
Medium for a long time, has
Oh, yeah.
already put something out along those lines. So, And I think it's for that reason that individual, authentic, original content will become more precious, not less.
Yeah. I think people will always like stories.
Yeah.
I mean, we love good stories, you know, we love compelling stories. We love, feel good stories. We love dark stories. We love stories, right? Like, and I want to be like brought into this world, this brand world, if it's work, or this company world, or whatever, or a story world. And to do that, there's a certain amount of information that you can get from an AI tool. And I really encourage everyone to use it, and there's so many great tools in AI that we use in our business all the time right now that are just, they're so fantastic. But it's the way you then use that information to deliver even better,
Mm.
of what it is that you bring to it. It's liberating almost, and it just allows us to be like, it just allows us to be thinking and feeling and communicate, and then putting that into whatever medium it is, either visual or pictures, or video, or the written word, or a podcast.
Mm.
you know
Mm. So,
so
Sandra, what's coming up for you this year that you haven't talked about yet? What's in Sandra's world coming up? Sandra's world, I like that. What's in your world, Sandra?
Yeah, I mean, I'm always after the, I always cultivate, I mean, I've sort of been at this as long as you have, and I've, brought up, like, I love to cultivate the entrepreneurial spirit in, like, in young people, or in colleagues, just, what's next? What are we doing next? What's going to be fantastic next? Like, let's do what we do so well now, but let's sort of look a little bit ahead and say, okay, how are we going to make this brand launch different, fantastic, connect immediately? Like, how are we going to differentiate this, or build this reputation, or solve this crisis? So I love cultivating a little bit of restlessness
Mm.
in both students and in colleagues, and because I like to be a little restless, like, what else should I be doing? Can I be doing? So I'm, I love that. I'm been in healthcare for a very long time. This is the space that I work in, consumer healthcare, and, in pharmaceuticals and diagnostics and devices. And healthcare has always been, my world, including, corporate healthcare. But I've done a lot of consumer healthcare, but I sort of want to get a little bit deeper into the consumer healthcare side, because I think that's, sort of interesting, and it's a world I've worked in, but I would like to work more in. And then I have this other tool that I'm creating. It's a little nascent, but it's evidence-based. And I think, young companies that need investment, they need to be ready for that investment. And similarly, investors need companies that are ready to maximize the money that they give them. So I've done a lot of organizational readiness work over my career, for managing issues and crises, and helping a whole organization from top to bottom be organizationally ready. And now I want to shift that to being organizationally ready for investments.
Mm.
I have like a AI enabled tool that will help, sort of amass that information. And then it takes a human to sort of look at it and say, okay, are you organizationally ready to go to the next step, like for series A or B or whatever? So I don't know. It's something that I've done a lot of for bigger and smaller companies, and they ask me all the time. Small companies ask me all the time, how am I going to attract the next round of funding? And I say, well, you got to be ready. You have to be in shape to be ready for it. And now I've sort of made that into this tool. So it's nascent, but it's an idea about readiness,
Mm.
that I think has a lot of value in a competitive environment full of uncertainties like we have now and short attention spans. So if you want to capture the moment, you got to be ready for it.
I shall look out for that then. Sandra, maybe
Yeah,
I'll invite you back on.
yeah.
It's not nascent, and when you think, right, this is now what it looks like. So I'll invite you back on, and we'll talk about it then.
Okay, well, thank you.
Sandra, we've come to the end of our time, so let anyone know, how can they find you or connect to you and find out more about you?
Well, I mean, they can certainly find me on LinkedIn. I'm Sandra Stahl. I mean, LinkedIn is such an easy way. My company is called JacobStahl, JACOBSTAHL. We're a part of Reuter Finn, which is a well-known big agency. So anyone can find me there. You can certainly read the books. There's the Smart PR book. There's the Art and Craft of PR. You could certainly capture, get those books. The Reputation book is it's harder to find. I wrote it really for the Indian market because I have this regular column for an outlet. It's like the PR week of India called Reputation Today. So they invited me to write this bi-weekly column. And so you can easily look at reputationtoday.com, and my column is called Shifting Sands. I have to write a column it's a bi-weekly. So got to produce a lot of content for that. So anyone can easily find me there. So there's lots of ways to find me. I'm in New York, I'm in London, I'm easy to find.
Brilliant. Thank you so much for your time today, Sandra. Thank you.
This was lovely.
Thank you for joining us from New York. I hope you've enjoyed today's show with myself and with Sandra. I hope you've got some insights and some thoughts and tips from it that particularly will inform your journey with AI, about having a positive relationship with it and not to be fearful of it. Check Sandra out, connect with her on LinkedIn. If you need to find me, I'm at scottmedia.uk, or hop onto Facebook and join Fiona Scott's PR tribe. Until next time.